afternoon, everybody, and thanks for attending our Celebrate Aging series offered through the Aspire Wellness channel for the Aspire Wellness program. Today we will have a conversation with our soon-to-be centenarian, Eleanor Dindinger, who on September 13th will celebrate her 21st year here at Passivant. In our audience today, she's joined by some of her family members, including two of her children, Patty and Gary, a niece, Peggy, great-niece, Sandy, and a granddaughter, Amanda. Before we begin our conversation, I'd like to briefly outline a general timeline of her life. Eleanor was born in 1925 to George and Marie Teets, who lived and worked on the family farm in nearby New Squiggly Township. Eleanor had one younger brother named Arthur. She had a very large and close extended family, as her father had 8 siblings and her mother had 9 siblings. Eleanor enjoyed school and attended Teets School, a one-room schoolhouse when she was young. In 11th grade, she met her husband Wayne through a mutual friend, and they were engaged in 1943 when she graduated from high school. They married in 1944, and their honeymoon was a ride from her home to his farmhouse on Scott Ridge Road, because the life of a farmer doesn't allow much time for vacations. They were always active members of Zion Lutheran Church in Middle Lancaster, where all their children were baptized and confirmed. Between 1946 and 56, Eleanor and Wayne had 5 children: Linda, Kathy, David, Pat, and Gary. They were very involved supporting their children's activities, including showing heifers and steers in the 4-H club. As the children grew up and moved on, Eleanor and Wayne continued to keep busy on the family farm. In 1967, they moved from the farm to their new home in Fawnville, where they lived for 23 years. They also began camping quite a bit. And in 1990, they moved to Portersville. Eleanor and Wayne moved to Passivant, living in Wittenberg Place in 2003, and Wayne passed away in 2005. Eleanor has made close family ties with her family both near and far, and has enjoyed visiting them in Florida and in other locations. She still lives in Wittenberg, enjoys playing 500 and dominoes, and also volunteers as a greeter here at the Abundant Life Center. In addition to her children, Eleanor has 13 grandchildren, 20 great-grandchildren, and 3 great-great-grandchildren. So now, we're going to begin our interview with Eleanor. Eleanor, could we just start by you telling us a little bit about your parents? Maybe what type of work did they do? Any special characteristics they have that you think of? But just some things about your parents.
We were farmers. Oh, I'm a farmer from day one, up until 1967. Mm-hmm. Then we gave up the cows. Mm-hmm. But from then on, and then we moved to Farmdale.
And so your parents, when you were growing up, do you have special memories of how your mom was or how your dad was? Were you a favorite child or anything like that?
I don't know whether it was a favorite child or not. I remember I was going to Akron, Ohio when I was little, when they built that dirigible. Mm-hmm. And my aunt and uncle and their kids and my mother and dad and my brother and I, we went out on a Sunday afternoon to see that.
To see the dirigible.
And then we went to Sunday school picnics for Barry's Church out at Conneaut Lake. And
those are some of your memories. What about when you were a little girl, since your parents were farmers, did you have any jobs as a little girl helping out on the farm?
My work was out in the barn more than it was in the kitchen. That was my problem. But anyhow, and then we had an orchard with sour cherry trees, and my aunt and uncle would come out to pick them, and when we seeded them, and then we hung them down in a well beside the house till they went home.
To keep them nice and cold.
Keep them cold.
Okay.
And then my uncle worked for Keystone Bakery, and I would go to visit him in Rochester, and his daughter and I, and Peggy and I would go over on the bread truck when he went back to the Keystone Bakery, and we'd ride down the hill from Beaver down around. And finally, one day, the guy in the service station says, "I think you girls better stop doing that." But that was things that we did with that. I'd go for a week.
Now, I know that you lived with your grandfather till you were about 11. What are some of your memories about life with your grandfather? Any couple memories stand out?
Yeah, I used to have, my mother peddled, she made her own butter and buttermilk, and she would peddle in New Brighton and Beaver Falls on Fridays. And if he decided he didn't want to get out of bed, I'd have to stay home from school and get him his breakfast and lunch.
Okay.
And then my other grandfather would come to visit us, my mother's father, and he made the best fried potatoes. Anyhow, he'd entertain me. I'd entertain him, one of the two. Anyhow, the one picture is of him and I on the porch.
Yeah, where you're sitting on his knee. Because you were born during the Depression time, how was your family impacted much? And I know that it was kind of different for farmers than it was for people maybe in the city. Do you remember much about the Depression?
I don't remember much about the Depression. I remember my aunts and uncles talking about it, but I don't remember much. But I know that when we got married in the war, we had gas ration, and I still have the coupons and from the gas rationing, and sugar. We had to have a coupon for sugar.
Yeah. Now, we talked about when you were little, Christmas, and some special Christmas presents you remember that you may still have.
I still have. I got a Chinese checker board, and I still have the board, and I have the marbles for it.
Yeah. How else did you celebrate Christmas? Assuming you had a tree in the house.
Yes, we had an artificial tree.
Did you really?
A small artificial tree. That's what we had.
Yeah.
But that was, and we always had to go to church.
Yeah.
I don't remember whether we went Christmas Eve, but I know we had to go Christmas Day, Christmas morning. And that's when we lived with my grandfather and grandmother Teets. And then we went with them, too.
Now, we talked a lot about school. You enjoy school, but I understand early on you had an issue.
I wasn't too happy with school. My mother would take me and I'd follow her back home for the first couple of months because I didn't want to go. But I grew into it, and I went. That picture on this was the school I went to.
That Woodridge Schoolhouse, school.
And it was catty-cornered this way from the school, and then we moved this way to 68, and I walked a mile back there and back.
What kind of things did you do at recess?
Well, we played ball, we played
Jump rope.
Jump the rope.
I saw
Anyhow,
that.
we did that. And then in the wintertime, the one girl lived catty-cornered from the school, and she went home for lunch, and she brought her sled bag with her, which she wasn't supposed to, but she did. And her and I went down the hill below the school. And when you went to the bottom, you had to kind of turn because there was a little run there. Well, her and I went down. She was on the bottom and I was on the top. We didn't make the bend. We went through a barbed wire fence. And she had 21 stitches on the one side of her face, and I was cut there. But that was the last of the sled riding.
I would think your parents probably weren't too excited about that. So, my goodness. Any other memories from school? Any special teachers, special subjects you enjoyed, anything like that?
The one teacher had just started teaching, and then after I got married, it was kind of not a friendship, but we were connected. She lived down by Unionville, and we were up on, this was after we were married. And I thought, gee, she was my teacher when I was in grade school.
Yeah.
And then the one teacher, my mother boarded, she stayed at our house for the winter.
Really? And so that's because she boarded her, you all provided food. Was it strange having a teacher living in the house with you?
That didn't bother me.
Okay.
Bother me. She had her room, and
Cool. During World War II, you were still in school. Do you have any special memories about when the war started? How it maybe affected just friends who may have gone off to war or anything like that? Or I know you talked about the rationing coupons and everything.
they had those rationing coupons.
Do you remember Pearl Harbor?
Yes, I remember.
And what do you remember?
My mother and I were walking up to church, because we lived right below the church. We were walking up to church whenever we heard the news on a Sunday evening. And that was...
And was that through the radio that you heard, or was it through the...
Well, we heard it on the radio.
Okay.
Was where we got it. And then, of course, when you went to Sunday evening service, everybody was talking about it. But
Yeah. Goodness. Now, I know that you met your husband while you were still in high school. Can you tell us a little bit about how you met him?
we were sitting in study hall, and the high school was over where Maple Court is now.
Just here in Zillion Noble, back behind, across from the library.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
We were sitting, we were talking. You were supposed to be studying, but we were talking, and she said her friend was coming. He was in the service, and he was coming home for the weekend. And Wayne told her if she found somebody to go for him, that he would take them. He would take her, take them out. Well, I don't know how, anyhow, we talked, and I said I'd go. Well, I did, and I've been gone. I was going. Anyhow, that was...
That was a nice setup by your friend. Wonderful. What were some of your typical dates when you and Wayne were dating? What were some of your typical dates? What types of things would you do when you were in high school and he would take you out somewhere?
After I started going with Wayne, we started going to a lot of square dances every Saturday night.
Yes.
We always had. And we went to Elwood City to square dancing. we usually had about 6, 7 kids and people in the car. And we continued going every week to square dancing.
Were you pretty good? Were the two of you pretty good? Were the two of you pretty good square dancers?
Yeah, my husband called some.
Okay.
Not very much, but he had called. They had dances over in Middle Lancaster, and he called down there a couple times.
Did you make your own dresses? Did you make your own dresses?
Oh, no, you just wore regular clothes. We didn't dress up for it.
Okay.
There's a
And then tell me a little bit about your wedding. Where you got married, was there a reception? Do you remember getting your dress or anything like that?
I still got my dress.
That's amazing.
I didn't bring it over, though. It has been to fashion shows, and it's been to Halloween parties, but I still got it.
I have to say, Eleanor does a great job of stapling things. The things that she's exposed me to. The War Ration books, S&H Green stamp books, wedding dress.
S&H Green stamp book, I still have.
But that's amazing, you still have your wedding dress. Do you remember where you got it? Or if you went shopping for it, or how did that come about?
We did most of our shopping in Beaver Falls.
Okay.
And that's where I got it.
Okay.
That's at the time when you didn't wear the long ones, you wore the short ones.
Yeah. And where was the ceremony? Was it in your church, or?
Yeah, it was in the church.
And did you have a reception?
And down at my mother's house.
Okay.
And we have pictures of the family, different families on his side and my side in the yard. And then in the evening, Wayne was always an instigator in having serenades. That's what you had when you got married. You had to serenade somebody. Well, his mother passed away just 6 weeks before we were married, and there was nothing at his home.
Okay.
But they weren't going to let him get away with it, so they came that night to my mother's after the wedding, and we had a serenade. We were serenaded.
And what goes on during a serenade? What goes on during a serenade?
Well, what does it tell them they have? One of those things
Victrola? Would that be?
Anything that made noise. Anything that made noise.
Okay. So it was a nice celebration. And then, as you mentioned, and I said in the introduction.
And then Saturday night, they had just an open house up on Scotter Ridge for us.
Fantastic.
Okay.
And then the next morning, you probably had to go out and take care of the animals.
We stayed at my mother's that night.
Okay.
And he got up and went and did the milking and the barn work. And then Peggy's father came, was their pickup, and took me up to Scott Ridge.
There you go. And then you began your married life.
That was 23 years we were there.
Wonderful.
Then in 57, he went to work in the mill.
Okay.
And he was there, he retired from there.
From the mill. Okay.
That's when 10 years later, then we decided to sell the farm and we moved to Farmville.
Now, throughout your life, I know you were active in your church and in your community. Can you tell us a little bit about some of your activities that you did that might stand out to your memories that stand out?
In church, I was active in WELCA, the women's organization. It was Edith Reed Circle when I started. And then it changed to WELCA. And I was in that. And I was president of Alder Guild. I wasn't involved in too much with Bible school, but I hauled kids back and forth. Sally's sister lived next door to me,
Yes.
and her and I, she took her kids and I took mine, and we, whatever they wanted us to do,
You did.
we did.
And then in the community, I know that you talked about a home ec club and a card club, so you're busy that way too.
Well, our children were small, and we started a card club, 9 of us, and there's 2 of us left. And it's about 65 years ago that we started that. Then I was involved in a home ec group. That was down in Farmville. One of the ladies in our card club was a real good seamstress. So she decided she'd start a group just for the women. And that was after my kids were in school then. And the one lady and I decided that we were going to make a couch cover for my couch. So we did. And I can't find the picture. I had it, and I don't know where it's at. But anyhow, of us, her and I, standing after we had it made, and
That had to have been a big project.
it was a big
Did
project.
you do the piping and everything?
Uh-huh.
My goodness, that's amazing. And then you were also involved, like you said, while your children were growing up, they were very involved in the 4-H and showing
They
the,
were.
and tell me a little bit about those activities and what they would show. Which
They
animals they would show.
They showed their steers, or not steers, when we lived on the farm, they had heifers that they showed. Both of them. No, Pat didn't. Pat and Gary didn't show the heifers. Linda and Pat. Linda and Kathy and David were involved in the farm show up in Butler. And we'd spend the weekend at the farm show with them showing their, then when they moved to, well, when we get to Farmville, I'll
One of those stories then. I know this will kind of probably encompasses different time periods, but tell us a little bit about when you got some of today's modern conveniences, such as the radio, a furnace, a washer dryer, the telephone, TV. So when do you remember getting some of those, or when did you have to?
Well, I didn't have any when I lived at home. I had none of that. Well, yes, I'll take that back. We had a furnace
Okay.
in our house. But when I moved to Scott Ridge, we had the potbelly stoves. We had one in the dining room, and it went up through the bedroom, and that heated the bedroom up above. And we had one in the living room, but and then we had the coal stove in the kitchen.
Okay.
But that was,
How you heat it.
but the first thing that I was happy with is when they came out with a little electric stove about that wide. It had 3 burners on it, and that was and an oven. That was the nicest little thing
Was it?
with it. And then we got the furnace
Okay.
in the house.
What about, did you have indoor plumbing when you were growing up? Did you have indoor plumbing when you were a little girl? Okay.
No,
So you had at Stockbridge though?
no,
No, not yet?
not until David was little
Okay,
when we got the indoor bathroom.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That must have been just wonderful.
That was.
What about the washer and dryer?
I never had a washer and dryer until I moved to Farmville.
Okay,
And then I didn't have one there right away.
okay.
I forget how many years it was afterward that I got, well, when I had my heart problems, that's when I got the washer and dryer.
So I think like many women like of your generation, you were busy from sun up to sundown just doing the basic things that occur pretty easily for us nowadays.
we used to go to Erie. We'd get up in the morning, do the barn work, and I'd pack lunch, and we'd take the kids and we'd go to Erie and pick cherries and come home. We'd be home by 7 o'clock. Wayne did the barn work and I started canning cherries. And they were really good.
I bet they were. And what would you make with that? What would you make with your cherries?
They were the white and red, big red and white cherries. You ate them as a dessert.
Okay.
You didn't use them in cooking.
For anything. Okay. We talked a little bit, you shared just some unique memories with me. You talked already about the dirigible that you saw in Akron. What about different moments of time, like when JFK died? Was that a memory that sticks out also, as far as you remember where you were and how you felt and everything?
Yes, I remember. I had just come home from the hospital when that happened. And Linda was going to graduate in the spring, and she had an interview at Montefiore Hospital that week. And I had to find somebody to take her in for her interview. And you listened to it on the radio or news.
Yeah. Do you remember when you got your first radio or your first television?
We were the first ones on Scott Ridge to have one.
Yes.
I think that must have been 1950, maybe 1906, maybe.
Okay. And were there any shows? Were there any shows that were favorites for you and your family?
There was always one on Sunday night, and I can't think what it was. That it was sort of a talent show, not a talent show. You went in to, what do I want to say?
Like a variety show or something?
Yeah. Kids went on there to...
Was it Art and Glitter, if there were little kids on it?
Yeah, I can't think what I want to say.
Pardon me? Lawrence Welk?
Lawrence Welk, you always had to watch Lawrence Welk. But anyhow, it was a talent show like the kids tried out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyhow, that was...
I know that you and Wade enjoy to travel, like camping. And we saw some pictures of your camper up there and everything. Tell us a few stories. Any special places you especially enjoy going to when you were doing your camping?
Well, we always went, Pat and her husband had a camper, and David had a camper, and ours, and Kathy went with us. We always, Pringer always had a crew that went every weekend.
And where would you go?
Wolfstown.
Okay.
And Bayshore, up in just across, and Pymatuming. We went every spring. We went Pymatuming for fishing.
Okay.
And
I saw a picture that you had shared with us of you holding a bunch of fish. Were you a pretty good fisherwoman?
Another couple, and Wayne and I went to Canada.
Okay.
And the lakes were beautiful. And we went fishing, and I came in that one night and I had 3. The other fellow that was with us said, I think we better go to town and get your license now. After we had caught 3. I didn't catch any after that.
Yes.
But anyhow, and then we went down to Roaring Run, down by Ligonier, down in that area.
Okay.
At Champion. And we went there.
Would you typically go for a weekend, or would you go away for...
Well, one year we started, Pat and Ron were with us, and Amanda and Justin, And we went to, anyhow, we ended up coming back through Hershey and down that way, and then we came back to Roaring Run, and that's where we stayed for the weekend. And with, but we had, and Wayne and I would go down for a week and stay when he had vacation. So that was after we moved off the farm. We
And
moved.
that life was a lot easier for you after the farm. You had better hours.
Yes.
Did you miss the farm though?
Huh?
Did you miss the farm though?
Yes, in a way. In a way, I was happier in Farmville than I was at Squaw Ridge.
And then you had one more move up to Portersville.
We lived 23 years on Squaw Ridge and 23 years in Farmville and 13 years in Portersville. 21 years here. That's my life history.
Well, I have a few general questions for you that we kind of talked about a little bit, but what do you think helped you live such a nice, long, healthy life?
Well, I think my faith in God has brought me through a lot of things because we had a lot of problems. And perseverance to keep going.
Yeah.
And that
So that
kept me going.
through the challenges that you had throughout it. Okay. Is there anything that you've wanted to do that you haven't done yet? Did you have a bucket list? Or if you hadn't created a bucket list right now, looking back, is there anything that you think, gosh, I wish I would have done this or that? Like jumping out of a plane or anything?
Nothing. No, I've done what I wanted to do. I mean, I've been fortunate to be. After we moved to Portersville, our daughter had a home in Florida, and they flew us down for 3 weeks. And I think we did that for about 3 or 4 years, that we went there. Pat took us to the airport, and Linda met us down there. And the last year that we went, David, Linda's husband, shook hands. He said, well, we'll see you next year. And next year, both of them were gone. So, just about 2 months apart.
Wow.
One went at Thanksgiving, and Wayne went the 1st of February. But we had good times when it was nice.
Now, what is one of the most important inventions during your life? Looking back, if there was something that you couldn't have right now that has been invented since you were born, what would you live without right now? What would you not want to live without? Any conveniences you have in your home?
Washer and dryer.
Really?
I still like to hang clothes out on the line though, but those days are gone.
Yeah. Because the clothes smell really good, didn't they?
I used to hang diapers on the line and they'd be froze before you got them hung up. But they were nice when they came in.
And then do you have any advice for young people? What would you tell the young people nowadays if you had some words of wisdom for them?
Oh, keep out of trouble. Don't follow the crowd.
Don't what?
Don't follow the crowd.
Oh, don't follow the crowd.
If you're young. But
Yes.
it's a different world out there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, is there anything else that we haven't talked about yet? Any other memories or thoughts that you have looking back? Any other stories you'd want to share? I know we talked about a number of different things, so we He's touched on most of them, but any other stories or thoughts?
Well, when I moved to Fallonville, my niece with the green lived, there was a barn between her house and my house, and her son was just 2 years old. Every morning you'd see Paul come down around the barn and be at my house.
Yep.
I really enjoyed it with him coming.
Would you welcome him with anything special? Would he come to your house for any special foods or drinks?
Well, he always came for cookies, and I still hear to this day about how good he liked the cookies.
Yeah.
But
Did you have a special cookie you like to make?
I don't remember what I made. Not peanut butter, chocolate chip
Yes.
I made.
Nice. Very good. Any other thoughts or stories and any other memories you'd like to, even thinking of, that you'd like to share? Because I think we've learned a lot, but
There was something I was going to say, and I can't think what it was now. Anyhow, we had some good time when we went camping at Wolf's Den. We played shuffleboard, and we'd be parked at one area, and they'd take the pickup, we'd all ride on the back end of the pickup up to play shuffleboard, and they had bingo, which wasn't my cup of tea, but we had a good time. And then they had Christmas in July, where everybody decorated, and then I remember going to the Pymatuming. It rained and it rained. I mean, everybody. And Kathy's talked her friend into coming for the weekend. Well, it rained and they were in tents. Those poor people were soaked too. But that went with it. That was. Wayne always took vacation on Memorial Day weekend, and he and I would go. The kids would come for the weekend. They went back home. Wayne and I stayed for the week, and we fished. And then if it was raining, we'd take off and go shopping. So that was
wonderful memories. Wonderful. Well, thanks for sharing. Our time's about up. And so I just want to have you all help me give Eleanor a round of applause for sharing her story with us.